Are we looking at a stalemate?
Oh, I think it's too soon to tell. I think that, as I counseled my foreign minister colleagues in Berlin last week, I mean, we want to get to a point where there is a resolution, and it has to be a political resolution, but it may not be as quick as all of us would like to see it.
Secretary of State Clinton talking about, of course, Libya and the ongoing action there. President Obama's decision to supply $25 million worth of non-lethal aid to the Libyan rebels was conveyed to Congress. Secretary Clinton was asked about that and talked about that earlier in the day.
Some of the items are medical supplies, uniforms, boots, tents, personal protective gear, radios, halal meals. There are no new purchases. This is not a blank check.
Not a blank check. What else is happening on the ground? Let's bring in our panel. Jonah Goldberg, at-large editor of National Review Online. Charles Lane, editorial writer for The Washington Post, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Jonah, what about this action, whatever it is, to supply the rebels with these items, and where we are in this conflict or war, or what you want to call it?
I think it's increasingly a farce. First of all, it feels like we're talking about the Contras from, 40, 30 years ago at this point. Now it's the Libyan Contras. I think that it is a very strange thing to have our NATO allies complaining about America's, at least on background, complaining about America's commitment to NATO and having some merit to it. It is a very strange thing that Obama's gotten us into. I was in favor of intervention at the beginning when I thought it was going to be an easy thing where the momentum was against Gaddafi. Now it's very hard for me to figure out why to support this, except for the fact that leaving Gaddafi in power will just be so much worse than pressing on with the thing.
Charles, the longer it goes on, it seems the more emboldened the Gaddafi forces are with their attacks on Misrata and other places, and the higher the chances are that Gaddafi survives.
Well, I don't think the rebels need halal meals, most of all. I think what they need is a more robust air campaign against Gaddafi's troops. And the unfortunate situation is that the United States is the only one with the equipment to provide that. These A-10 attack planes and so forth. AC-130 is a very lethal gunship that we have that were being deployed early on and that have now been taken off the table by the Obama administration because he does not want the U.S. to be taking the leading role in this. So the Secretary denies that it's a stalemate, but I think it is a stalemate unless and until something is done to introduce superior force on the side of the rebels.
Charles.
If you listen to the list of items that the Secretary of State mentioned, she said radios. What she didn't say is that these are non-secure radios. You ask yourself, why would we be sending that rather than secure radios? It's just as easily done. And the answer has to be because we don't want to be seen as actually helping the rebels to fight, which is odd when your objective is dislodging and bringing down Gaddafi. This is obviously a war in which Obama has intervened not because he seeks success, but because he wants to have a new experiment in hands-off interventionism. He's more interested in clean hands than in success on the ground. And it's a kind of experiment in a post-American world, a world in which America is not dominant, not leading, but diminished. That's exactly what he has created in this intervention, and we see the results. Yes, a stalemate, divisions in NATO, the French complaining that they are not getting timely targeting information because the Americans are no longer in the lead. And Misrata is on the brink of being overrun after Obama had announced to the world that Gaddafi had to withdraw from Misrata, and it was non-negotiable. It turns out that American demands under Obama are not only negotiable, they are empty.
Charles, politically,